So this is the first bit of the tune-up for the Heathkit HW12A, which is an SSB 80m set from, it's a transceiver and it's from 1966. So I've done some rudimentary things like changing the odd electrolytic capacitor. I don't trust cardboard ones, and when I tested certainly the main one I took out, it was starting to read high, which is indicative of imminent failure. So what we've now done is we've had to buy this signal generator because our bench signal generators don't go under 10 megs. We've got one that doesn't go under 24 megs, one that doesn't go under 88 megs, and one that doesn't go under 10 megs. Well, this does 0.1 megs to 184 megs AM FM, and it's a Dymar, who if you're not in the UK, you won't be familiar with the name. But they did business two-way radio, certainly up to the probably up to the early 80s, and it's a type 1525, I think it is, and that was a 75 quid from eBay thing, and it's got one or two slight issues like the tuning mechanism, and I'm using that with a frequency counter just to help me know where I am with that. On top of that, we've got a Heathkit speaker which did not come with the radio but is the correct one for it. We've got the radio itself, and lurking at the back with the red capacitors poking out, you may not even see it from this angle, is the power supply, the HP23, which I did the overhaul on in several sessions on video with new capacitors, and that's all working. And then we've got a variac, and then we've got an isolation transformer. So everything's plugged into the isolation transformer. And then if I do get a shock, I won't be stuck to it and killed, hopefully. Well, you won't get to see the video if that happens. So we're going to switch on the variac, and we're going to switch on the radio, and I've got the service manual, I mean it's a construction manual, which I bought as a ready printed out printout from somebody in Germany via eBay. And then I also found somebody in Canada doing a disc of Heathkit scanned books, and so I have printed off 4 pages of alignment to help me tick off what we're doing. So my expertise is in business two-way radios for the UK, AM and FM, and also in citizens band radios for the UK FM legal market. My expertise in 80m stuff is absolutely non-existent, though I did do some training on Pi SSB 200s and SSB 220s because we had business customers with SSB business radios in the 1980s who were in Wales, and interestingly enough they didn't have clarifier things like CBs because it did it automatically. So I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to see what the first thing is, and you know what, I bet I've got all the wrong equipment out. So there's no overhead cameras or anything like that. It's just the way it is. This is just a table in Mr. Chippy's workshop, which I've just cleared down to be able to put this equipment on and do this job. Isn't one of our workbenches. So page 39. They want us to test pin 1, pin 3 and pin 4 for resistance. But we've already had this power on this and we know there isn't an issue there. So it says phono plugs are provided for making connections to the sockets. Well, 2 of the sockets on the back have been replaced by Belling-Lee connectors, the kind you get on the back of television sets in the UK. And we've got Belling-Lee to BNC adapters to accommodate otherwise. I'm not going to unmodify that because I would think that Belling-Lee is better than phono anyway. Certainly with them being used on UHF television in the UK. So connecting an 8 ohm speaker, well we have done, and a 50 ohm dummy load to the antenna socket, which we have done. Wire the power supply as you've been told to, which we have done. And I will switch the power supply on. I'll switch the variac on. The reason I'm using a variac is that the 250 volt high tension line is about 264 on load with the radio on, and I just felt that a little bit high. So what I've got is the variac set for 220 volts, and that'll be about right. So I don't need to even bother measuring it, because it'll be about right. So we'll switch the power supply on. That only comes on when I put it on with the radio. So what do? We connect it to the transceiver power plug, make sure the Vox delay is at the centre of its rotation. I think that's at the back. Turn the function switch to PTT. The pilot lamps and the tube filaments should light. Watch to see that the meter remains at zero. Well, isn't it zero? If it should start to deflect, the transceiver should be turned off immediately, as the bias control tube are probably shorted and must be corrected before proceeding. Right. However, this is kind of a working set, even though we didn't buy it as such. Place the meter switch in operate tune position and adjust the S meter for 0 indication on the meter. Which is a great start, because the first tool I use isn't long enough. And the shaft on that's too thick. Oh, here's some long reach screwdrivers from the pound shop. What are we doing? 0 indication on the meter. And there we have 0 indication on the meter. So that's the first thing I've done. So I'll tick that one off. Remove the dummy load from the antenna socket and plug the antenna into the antenna socket. Well, we're not going to do that because we haven't got an antenna on here. Turn up the AF volume until noise is heard in the speaker. Tune up and down with the VFO and station should be. What they're trying to get you to do is they're trying to get you to tune up the radio with a radio signal. What we're going to do is to tune it up with the signal generator. So turn up the volume and we'll find a signal generator which should be 3.7. If I was plugged into it, that is. going to get the signal drainage, so I've got maximum. I've set the 0 on the S meter. So that's about as good as we're going to have. So I need to turn down the RF gain. That's there. It's probably about where we want it. And they want us to the IF transformer T3. T3. Oh, it's upside down. So T3 is that one. Adjust the top and bottom slugs of the receiver IF transformer T3 for highest meter reading. Now, does this fit? Of course, I'm just guessing. Yes, it does. So we're going to, I'll do the bottom one first. And then the top one. And I'm happy we've done that. So I'll tick that off. Repeat the adjustment of T3 for the highest meter reading. We've done that. Turn the function switch to off position. So we've done that. Turn the VFO dial fully counterclockwise until the plates of the VFO capacitor are fully closed. They are. Then loosen the set screw on the dial and rotate the dial so the end of the white strip near the 3.8 mark is aligned with the hairline. And tighten the set screw, because they're assuming you've assembled this from scratch and it's within 0.5 millimeter. I'll just look at it at the other end. It's actually slightly out, so that's something we will now move on to. Well, that was harder because you ended up with the dial rubbing against the window. Anyway, I've sorted that and I've aligned it as they want you to do with the hairline on the edge. So that's another stage we can tick off. Bend the lamp brackets and adjust the lamp positions for best illumination of damp. Well, of course, that's fine. That's been done in the past. VFO calibration. Plug a dummy load into the antenna socket and they want you to set the dial. Well, we know that we've got this frequency, and so I can tune the dial for that frequency. So the next point is to align the dial to what we've got on the signal generator. We've got 3.71. So we've got this now set at 3.71. And we need to adjust this coil till we bring the signal generator in. So I reckon that's there. So that's now set. So that's got us to that point. Turn off. I could tick that point off as well. So that goes on to a setting it with a amateur receiver. We've set it with a signal generator. The next bit is for the the optional crystal calibrator, which we haven't got on this one. So I want to set the bias setting. So connect the dummy load to the antenna socket. So we'll make sure we've disconnected the signal generator, or we won't have a signal generator. Yep. Remove valve 5. Valve 5. Good. Well, that's 2 pages done. Oh no, we've covered that page. 3 pages done. So we're here, bias setting. Dummy loaded antenna socket, valve 5 is a 12BY7, whatever that is in English. Switch the function switch to tune and the meter to bias set. Adjust the bias set for a reading of S3 on the meter. So, is it that long tool again? That's definitely in. So go over to tune, it says. For S3 on the meter. Switch off. I bet that warmed the dummy load up. I've only got a 50 ohm dummy load. I've put this off because I've been waiting for 300 ohm dummy load. It's got lost in the post. I've ordered another. I've got a club net on in half an hour and I'd like to be on the air with this radio. So that's done the bias. And replace valve 5. With the VFO set to 3.6, turn the center to tune, and the meter should indicate some output. So with the VFO set to 3.8, I'm just going to poke that in there as an aerial. We needed a T-piece and some distribution things, but I just needed to get on with this. So with the VFO set to 3.8, turn the function switch to the tune position and the meter position to tune operate. The meter should indicate some output. Adjust the final tune control, which is that, for a reading of over S3. So here goes. To carry nulls on the circuit board, it says. And it is indeed. It's just there, so I'll be able to adjust that. So we'll go back to switching on. So once again we'll go over to tune. So that wants to be at peak, and it says 3, and that's exactly what we've got, 3. So adjust the final tune control for maximum output, which gives a reading over S3 on the meter. If the meter goes over 9, adjust the carrier null to drop the level to 9. Adjust both slugs of transformer T2 for a maximum meter indication. T2 we're that way on, so it's the one there. So we've got an upper slug and a lower slug. That was already at peak, and that now is at peak. I've only got an 80 watt dummy load here, a 50 watt dummy load here, and this radio is capable of 180 peak envelope power, so I'm being very, very careful. So that's done that, so we can tick that off. Press the PTT switch, and this mic's not part of this radio either, it's a separate entity and it's got a dodgy PTT switch. With the sideband switch in lower sideband position, press the PTT and adjust carrier null for a minimum signal strength on the meter. So I'll just check that again. So you can also use another receiver as a null position. So carrier null for minimum. Yep. And then the alignment tool T1, the bottom slug of it, and we are tuning for two full turns forward of the bottom of its travel. Now I'm not going to do that because the set's already been a working set. And align the top slug for maximum signal indication. And that's there. And readjust carrier null for the minimum position, which is like that. Need to do the bottom slug for a minimum dip. That appears to be there. Readjust carrier null for its minimum position. Change the sideband switch to upper sideband and check the null. We seem to be about there. Turn the function switch to the tune position, which we're in, and the meter switch to operate tune. Yes. And adjust the tune control to obtain a meter link reading of between 3 and 6. This reading should vary as you go across the band and between LSB and USB. Driver tuning. The driver tuning cores L2 and 3 are preset at the factory and need no further adjustment. Let's hope that's it. So that should be some kind of alignment, and so we'll put it on the air and see if anybody can hear us. So that's the next part of the Heathkit HW12 kind of done, and we'll see what happens. G0OJF returning. Yes, well, it's nice to be on here for the first time ever on 80 meters SSB, and to answer Andrew's question. It is a single band radio. The HW12A was available in different bands, and we bought several sets. I mean, Stuart was aware of what I was bidding on. We bought several sets, and I thought it'd be quickest to get a single band set on the air than to get a multi-band set on the air, because obviously there's a lot more work involved in all the different bands. So that's what that was about. So most of the time has been spent on the power supply, but this evening I did as quick as possible minimal alignment just to get the thing on the air, and that's what we've done. So I'll go over to Andrew, and it's lovely to hear you, Andrew, on SSB and be having a conversation like this. So over to you, G0OJF.
Well, what's that Golf 8 trying to call in? Unless there was, they've gone. Thanks very much, Richard. Sorry, that's me. G0OJF from and the group from G4HPC. And what kind of power will that be running, Richard?
G0OJF, it's capable of 180 watts peak envelope power, but at the moment I didn't do anything like whistle into it on the dummy load because I'd only got a 50 watt dummy load. The 300 watt dummy load has got lost in the post and they've had to send another one over.
So 50 watts, 30 watts?
I would guess we're somewhere around about that. Yeah, it is hard to tell without. I could only feel the dummy load, and it felt about 30 to 50 watts worth over.
Is it a single PA or twin PA?
It's two valves in the PA. I haven't looked at the configuration, but there are two valves in it, which are those American. Oh dear, the ones with the compactrons over. I wouldn't know without looking at the manual over.
Don't worry. I know that they did quite a few rigs. I had an SB something, SB 200. No, that was an PA. But yeah, I just wondered really. I used to. The first thing I ever had was a KW Valiant with a single 6146 after a Geloso VFO. And CW only for probably the first year and a half of my amateur radio existence as a licensee. Anyway, it's good to hear you then. You're 5 and 7 with me, and thanks for the call from Surrey. I don't think there's much else to pick up on.
6GE5.
6GE5.
So with that, I'll put it round to you then. M7 LEN of the group from Golf 4 Hotel Victor Charlie. An interesting schedule of meetings. It's the first and third of Friday of every month. Anyway, with that, cheers to you then. Let everybody else say cheers, and then round to the other Len, G4WZU. Golf 8 Uniform Hotel Victor. I thought there was a G8 calling in. Do you want to just say, tell us your name and where you are?
Thank you, hello to everybody on the network, good evening. You said you had a 480 that you were part of, not a 420. Obviously on the 7300, very good. Good evening to Glenn, Golf 8 Hotel Uniform Victor. It works on the 150, you know, M0CBO. Does he go to your club? Yeah, very good. Sorry, didn't signal report, Glenn. If you come back to me on your next over, I'll make sure I have a look at the meter. And with that, we'll go around to Richard. Golf 0, Oscar Juliet Foxtrot from Mike 0, Sierra Delta Mike
G0OJF Golf 0 Oscar Juliet Foxtrot. Yes, to answer the question, it is the output valves on this radio are 6GE5, 6 Golf Echo 5, and they're those American compactrons like you got in colour televisions kind of at the time. We never had compactrons in this country. Well, I never saw them, and I was in the television trade in the 70s. I'm going to bow out. I'm very pleased that we've got this on the air, and obviously further work will take place on it, and it's great to be on here. As I say, for the first time. I've been licensed originally since 1979. It's my first time on SSB 80 metres, and with that I'll say 73 to you all. I'll listen one round again, and straight over to Andrew. G0OJF.
Yeah, G0OJF on the group, G4HPC. Well, many thanks for coming in, Richard. It's lovely to hear you on the air. And more power to that HW12A single bander. It sounds great. And we'll get you on the contest next. No, that was only a joke. Sorry. and okay to Glenn, I think it is, Stuart, Golf Lima Yankee November I copied, and I'm trying to think who I know at Worktop Club. There's a chap that I met at one of the Walesby Scout jamborees, who's dead keen, club member and scouter, and I can't remember his name. Not to worry, I must put it on, I think M7LEN's bowed out. So, did you want to come back in, Glenn? G8UHV, the from G4HVC, if not then. Yeah, take it then.
Okay, thanks Andrew. There's another station quite nearby now. I'm talking about with a notch in the shift.